Check, check. All right. Come this way. For those of you watching online, we're going to get started in 1 minute. Let me see here. Let me see here. Okay, perfect. Shalom, Yahweh Shem, Yahweh Shah, Baraka Thumb to all my brothers. Yahweh Shema Thub Shem, Yahweh Shah to all my sisters. This is New England's
Yo,
class.
Cat, what you on?
Hey, Shalom Hebrew, about to teach a class right now.
Shalom, Hebrew.
This is on the New England channel?
Hey, shalom. Shalom, y'all. Bashim, y'all. Shabrak.
You should work.
Yeah, I like me. I was shot Brock. Oh,
What's going on? You should work thumb. This is the New England channel, right? Y'all could see that?
What's good, Cap?
What's going?
hey, Cap said he got the boot on, man. He finna start booting people.
Hey, y'all can hear me now?
Con.
Cap,
Okay, Most High Christ. Yeah, this clubhouse. The club deck be you know what I'm saying, be messing up sometimes. Is this the New England room?
Nah, it ain't saying New England. It's just got us in here with a picture of Cat with this boot. I'm thinking you finna.
Oh man. Y'all funny as hell. Nah, man, I don't know what's up, man. My club deck is acting I'm a couple of minutes behind on this class. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end this room. Today I'm going in on we had the law since Adam. So if y'all want to join in, it should be going live on ISUPK New England in about 1 minute, all right?
Con.
All right, I'm gonna get with y'all in a second.
All right.
All right, you should work thumb. Boom, there we go. All right. Hey, Shalom.
What's good with you, Cap?
Not much.
I'll
Welcome
be able
back.
to read too, so.
Hey, I appreciate that too.
I ain't gonna lie, you had me and my Akim because I had brought him in the room the other night, and he's on one. But we were listening to the class. We was like, I said, bro, like we gotta get Cap go in a little bit more on that how Noah was perfect, so you know.
Okay, so actually it probably is the perfect class to do that with because I'm gonna be showing how we've had the law since Adam. So that means I'm definitely gonna have to touch on Noah and a couple of other people. You know what I'm saying? So that'll be definitely on topic.
Con. I'm cause I think there's a misconception. Well, I don't say it's a misconception yet. I want to say it's a misconception because early on, uh, I would bring up the people that were counted as perfect in the Bible and in the scriptures and whatnot, and one of them, they said like his time was at like the same time that Moses were, or yeah, the same time when Moses was around, and I was just like, that just kind of didn't sit with me. I think it was Job. They said Job was like the same time around, like around Moses, but I
Okay,
was like, that don't make sense.
okay. Now there is no. Okay, just so you know, Job. There is no like direct time frame for him. You know what I mean? Like Job is just considered like one of the oldest stories, like really inside the scriptures. You know what I mean? So like you have you have attributes towards the law, you have attributes towards like a covenant. But you know what I'm saying, to say directly if he was an Israelite or not, like that was really like an oral tradition that got passed down and then written down. So you can't really put a direct time frame on it. You know what I'm saying?
Con.
But we definitely got some things to go over today. I'm just getting everything set up. I just got to make sure the Facebook and the YouTube is solid and it looks pretty good to me. All right, the sound is Tawab on here as well. And then you got your Apocrypha too as well?
Con, I got the. My bad. I got the Apocrypha. I got 1611. Let me see. Yeah, I got them.
Okay, perfect. All right, so what we're going to do is the first scripture that we're going to hit is we're going to go to 2nd Ezra 7 and 11. All right, let me know when you're there with me.
Okay, Con, I'm there.
All right, if you want to take it away.
Con, this is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 7, verse 11. It says, "Because for their sakes I made the world, and when Adam transgressed my statutes, then was decreed that now is done."
You understand? So now this is what we have to understand. Adam transgressed the law, meaning that we've had the law since the beginning. You really only run into this with so-called like Torah only. That they'll say, oh, we've only had the law since Moses. No, Moses, what he did was not only did he create law enforcement, not only did did he write down the law, and then write an attribute of every statute. You know what I'm saying? Meaning like when you're looking at the law, you have your like the statute of limitation. That's like what the statutes are. You know what I'm saying? Like what the penalties are for breaking the law. And then you have his commandments. So all the law, statutes, and commandments we've literally had since Adam inside the garden. So I want to see if, if you've been paying attention, or anybody else as well that's listening. Y'all can type it in. Let me see. I wish I had that other brother in here right now. I don't know how to innate. Oh, wait, hold up. Chat. Okay, open social chat. All right, so you guys, boom. Perfect. All right, so you guys could type your questions into the chat, as well as, y'all could also come on stage if you like, or if you have a question. I'm going to send invites to all of you. You know what I mean? So if you guys have an actual question, you guys could come up. You could just say Salakia. And then right now we're going to stick with questions on topic. And then if we finish the lesson, we'll get into a couple of others, all right? So the first thing we got to understand is we've had the law since Adam. So then my question is, when did Adam receive the law?
I would say Genesis 2 and 7.
That's 100% correct. So I'll read Genesis 2 and 7. If you can grab me Ezekiel 37. All right. So Genesis chapter 2 verse 7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. This was when Adam received the law, because as we went over a couple of weeks ago, Adam was alive. You know what I'm saying? Like this creation that happened in Genesis, this was a spiritual creation. It wasn't a physical creation. How do we know? Because when you start over in verse 1 of chapter 2, Genesis 2 and 1, it says, "Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God had ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made." So now when you scroll down and we start to see, we get to verse 7. So what is the Lord creating here? Physical creation was done. What he did was he gave him the breath of life. He gave him his instruction. That's what it meant to be made in the image of God. To be made in the image of God is to like have the reputation of power or the angels, meaning what? What's their reputation? They obey God. They can receive instructions from the Most High. And that's something that separates us from the animals. That's something that, like without the law of God, we are animals. You know what I'm saying? Think about a dog. A dog just eats anything, humps anything. It'll hump your leg, hump the chair leg. You know what I'm saying? And that's who we are without understanding that there's an order to everything in life. Without understanding that there's somebody you're supposed to sleep with, there's something you're supposed to eat, there's a way that you're supposed to dress. And that is something that the Lord passed down to Adam. So if you can get Ezekiel 37 and start at verse 1.
God, this is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, verse 1. It says, "The hand of the Lord was upon me and carried me out of the spirit of the Lord." My bad, Salaki, and carried me out in the spirit of the Lord and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones.
So now the first thing that you got to understand is that this was a vision. So this is not something that's literal. All right. So the spirit was, you understand, the spirit of the Lord was upon him and then carried him in the spirit of the Lord. So meaning this is showing him a vision. And now he sees a valley with dry bones. Go ahead.
2. And caused me to pass by them round about, and behold, there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. Salaki, they were very dry.
No, so you know what I'm saying. So now one thing you have to know is that dryness is synonymous with something that's dead. All right, like even when it says, you know what I'm saying, touch not the green leaves, or even when the scriptures say, if you would do this in a green tree, what would you do in a dry tree? If a tree is dry, it's dead. The leaves are dead. It's rotten. It has you understand, no life inside of it. So these are extremely dry, all the way dead. Now, who are they? These are the people in the world. You know what I'm saying? This is everybody before the truth. Read on.
This is verse 3. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Lord God, thou knowest.
You understand? So he says, man, only you know if these bones could live. Read on.
Verse 4. Verse 4. So like it.
No, so
he said unto me.
And while you're getting there, you know what I'm saying? And this is something that when you're a camp leader inside the UPK, when you go to a different city or you're a young man, like that's what you say when you pull up and your campsite is at a dope spot. You understand? You start to see brothers and sisters out there destroyed, and man, you say, man, like, can these bones live? Can these brothers and sisters live? You know what I mean? Only the Lord knows, which is why, like, if it was up to us, you know, in our carnality and our selfishness, you know, all our peoples would be in the world. You know, our family members, you know, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers. But it's not up to us who comes inside here. So what we do is we just prophesy to the wind. And that's what you're going to see the Lord instructs Ezekiel to do. Read on.
Okay. Salaki. O Lord God, thou knowest. Again, he said unto me, prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of the Lord.
So now, he said, prophesy onto these dry bones. Hear ye the word of the Lord. And what do prophets do? Prophets go and teach the law. Prophets teach the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. That's how we enter back into life. Go ahead.
Verse 5. Thus saith the Lord God unto these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter to you.
He will what?
And ye shall live. I will cause breath to enter to you, and ye shall live.
So now everybody that was in the world before the truth, were we alive? Yeah, physically we were alive, but spiritually we were all dead. And it's the breath of life that enters into your nostrils that brings you back to life. And that breath of life comes from hearing the word of God and putting it inside of you. And that's what the Lord said was supposed to happen, that the law was supposed to be inside our inward parts. That's how we enter into life. Because all those who break the law shall die, because sin is the wages of sin is death. And that's why there's so much death that's around us. So the breath of life that Adam received was the laws, statutes, and commandments. Now we're going to get a little bit more of Ezekiel and the dry bones. Then we're going to get back and we're going to show that Adam has had the law. And this law was an oral tradition amongst our people. So at one time, you understand, like I said earlier, when Moses was on the scene, the Levitical priesthood would be the ones who would come and judge you. You understand? Would be the ones, and judgment is punishment or reward. That was our municipality. That was who the police would be. That's who policed Israel. That's who judged Israel. And then that's who acted out the punishment or the statute or the penalty for breaking the law in the land of Israel, was the Levitical priesthood. Before that, the Lord was the one who would do it, or we would be a law unto ourselves. And that's how it always was without a priesthood, where the Lord would be the one to cast judgment on you. The Lord would be the one to reward you or punish you. Read on.
So like in verse 6, and I will lay sinews, and I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh. I will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and ye shall live. And ye shall know that I am the Lord. I am the Lord.
You understand? And now what you're seeing here is that these are different stages inside the truth. That sinew, that flesh coming up on your bones. Sinew is what attaches your muscle to your bone. It's what attaches the meat in your body. All right. So now what happens is that when you're young in the truth, right? Like you start off, first you come out of the valley of dry bones, right? You might have been standing outside of camp. And then you start listening to these brothers. Then before you know it, you're in all black. Then after you're in all black, now you quit the cigarettes. You quit smoking weed. You start growing a beard. You stop, edging yourself up, trying to be pretty all the damn time for some evil sister in the world. And it's funny because whenever I talk to a brother and I say, man, why you edge yourself up? Like why you got that chin strap? Especially, man, when I be talking to my Dominican brothers, I don't know what it is with Simeon. They all shave their mustache. I don't understand. I'll be on the job, you know what I'm saying, with a brother. I'm like, brother, why you shave your mustache? He got a whole beard but no mustache. And it's always, oh, my wife, my this, my that, or you know what I'm saying. I'm like, you doing that for a woman? Man, like, meanwhile, your mustache is your first sign of masculinity as a man. It's the first place your peach fuzz grows in. Why you want to destroy your first early sign of manhood? Don't make no sense. You know what I mean? So that sinew starts coming upon your flesh. It's different stages of the truth until eventually you become an entire living soul. So now with that, if you have your Apocrypha, give me Baruch 4:1.
God, I'm getting there.
All right, I'm about to get there with you. And for those of you who might not have seen it before, this is the Apocrypha. You know what I'm saying? As long as you have the King James Version, you're good. It's the 14 books that they removed from the Bible. If you have a King James 1611, you'll catch it right in between the Old and the New Testament, because the Apocrypha is a part of the Old Testament. So we're going to go to Baruch 4:1.
God, I'm there.
No sweat. Whenever you got
This
it.
is Baruch chapter 4, verse 1. This is the book of the commandments of God and the law that endureth forever.
The law that
All
what?
The law that endureth forever.
You understand? Because the law endures forever. There's never a time where the law is done away with. And it has been there, as we read earlier in 2nd Ezra, that Adam transgressed the law. And now we're starting to see that the law was given to him when he had the breath of life. Continue.
and all they that keep it shall come to life.
All thee that keep it shall come to life. Meaning you can be alive, but you understand, without the law, we are spiritually dead. That's why the scripture has a phrase for it, the congregation of the dead. That's the world. You understand? The world is the congregation of the dead, where we're not really alive. We're not really living life until we come inside here. And a lot of you will be able to really experience that when you come to the Passover. You come to the Passover, we are a full and exceeding army for the Lord. All right. Read on.
But such as leave it shall die.
Such shall leave it shall what?
Shall die.
You understand? So if we want to enter into life, we have to keep the law. The law is the breath of life. The law is how we live. And Adam has had it since the very beginning. Let's get a little bit more on that. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 15.
God, I'm there.
All right. Read it when you got it.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30 and verse 15. See, I have set before you thee this day life and good, and death and evil.
And this is why it's like when it comes down to us thinking that we have free will, it's not even a choice. What we have is an ultimatum. It's like, imagine somebody putting a gun to your head and saying, do this or you die. Do you really have a choice? If death is the other option, that's not a choice. And that's why I say all the time, and I try to get brothers and sisters to really embed this inside themselves, that keeping the law is the bare minimum. Keeping the law, that like, it's not a choice or an option to keep the law. We have to keep the law. So you're not special for keeping the law. Now, we're special because God gave us the law, which means that we better keep it because that's the bare minimum requirement of being the chosen people. Read on.
Deuteronomy 30 and 16. In that I command thee this day to love the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that thou mayest live and multiply.
And that's what Adam did. You understand? Adam was given the breath of life. He lived and he multiplied. Finish the verse.
And the Lord thy God shall bless thee in the land whither thou goest to possess it.
You understand? And that's how it was supposed to be. That was supposed to be our inheritance, much like the garden was. But the same way we lost our homeland, we lost our first habitation, that was the garden. So now let's just show that we've had examples of the law all throughout our history. All right. So one of them is for sure. Let's go to Genesis 7 and 1.
God, this is the book of Genesis, chapter 7 and verse 1. And the Lord said unto Noah, come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation.
First of all, we got to understand that for you to even be righteous, you have to be keeping the law. That's how we know what righteousness is. You understand? When somebody ways please the Lord. Read on.
Verse 2. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, the male and his female.
So now by every what type of beast?
Clean.
How do we know if something is clean or not? You understand? If we can eat it. If it is unclean to us, then we can't eat it. Keep reading.
And of the beasts that are not clean, by two, the male and his female.
You understand? So now what we're starting to see here is, how did Noah turn around and then know that these animals are clean and these animals are unclean? Because we have had an oral tradition since Adam. Adam received the breath of life. He was not the first person on the earth. You understand? Then he went and got himself a woman from his nation. That rib was sealed up, meaning what? Now the tradition is kept where we don't deal with outsiders. We get a woman from our nation because interracial marriage is a sin. And then as time goes on and we start to see the generations pass, we see that they too separated clean and unclean animals, which means we knew which animals we could eat and which animals we couldn't eat. Now today we find that written out in Leviticus, the 11th chapter. But Noah knew it all those thousands of years ago. Why? because it was taught to him by his father and his father and his father and so on and so forth until we get back to Adam. Let's show a few more other examples. And what I'm going to do is, I know you have a question in Genesis 6, but let's get through some of these examples and we'll do that last because that might lead to something else. So let's just get a couple of other examples what we have here, right?
God.
So we're going to bounce around in Genesis for a little bit. So let's go to Genesis 17:1.
God. So this is the book of Genesis chapter 17 and verse 1. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect.
You understand? So now, how do you become perfect? Everybody, like, especially because of the church, because the church uses grace as an excuse to sin. And it also makes us believe that we cannot live the life that Christ did. Of course we can. You understand? Like, that was the entire point and purpose, was for us to live like him. Every Christian wants to be Christ-like, but ain't nobody want to keep the law. Being perfect is keeping the law. We've had laws since Adam, and they've been passed down from Noah all the way on down to Abraham. And that's a part of the reason why Abraham was chosen, because Abraham, he turned around and he didn't go and follow the gods of his fathers. He didn't go and worship the stars, because he knew that there was a power who created the stars. And he knew better than to worship the creation over the creator. So I'm going to give you just a little bit more about that. So I'm going to read this, and while I'm reading this, if you can get Genesis 38:7, all right? So this is the book of Judith in the Apocrypha. I'm going to start at chapter 5 and go to verse 5. Then said Achior, the captain of the sons of Ammon, let my Lord now hear a word from the mouth of thy servant, and I will declare unto you the truth concerning this people, which people we're talking about, Israel, which dwelleth near thee, and that habiteth the hill countries, and there shall no lie come out the mouth of thy servant. This people are descended of the Chaldeans, because remember, that's where Abraham came from. And they sojourned here too in Mesopotamia, because they would not follow the gods of their fathers, meaning the false gods, the false idols, which were in the land of Chaldea. For they left the way of their ancestors and worshipped the God of the heaven, the God whom they knew. So they cast them out from the face of their gods, and they fled to Mesopotamia and sojourned there many days. See, everybody in the world knows our history. Everybody on the planet, you understand? It don't matter if you've been in the Christian church or not. You're going to find somebody who knows about, what happened in Egypt with the plagues and Pharaoh and so on and so forth. Because this is the word of God. Why do you think so many religions get created from this book? Why do you think everybody who sees this book, for thousands of years is trying to be the chosen people? Because there is no words more powerful than what was written down by these prophets that came from the Most High. And the heathens, they knew our history. You understand? And Abraham, he kept the laws that was passed down. You understand? He followed the old way. That's why everybody thinks that Hebrew is to cross over. It means from the past, because they kept the old way. And that's what we have to do today. We have to follow the old way. It's not like, the Bible was written for that time. No, the Bible was written forever. The word of God endureth forever. As we read earlier, the law endureth forever. So, with that being said, go ahead.
I was gonna ask you if this precept. Well, I was gonna ask you if this precept went with Genesis 17:1, and Genesis 26:5, when it says, "Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws." I was gonna be like, well, how did he keep his laws if the laws weren't there back then? You see what I'm saying?
That's a perfect precept. That was actually on my list. That was probably about 9 scriptures down. Nah, you good. But listen, that's what class is for, and that's exactly what I would do in class. I would ask and say, is this a precept? And it's good because it means that you understand it. It means that you're getting some sinew on you. You know what I mean? And that's why you have to get milk when you first study the scriptures, because then when you go through the Bible, see, prior to hearing we've had the law since Adam, you could have read that and it would have just been nothing. But now you read it and you say, we have had the law before Moses. Wow, Abraham had the law right here. Now it matters and now it means something. You know what I'm saying? So that's a perfect precept. So let's go back to Genesis 38 and 7.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 38, verse 7. It says, And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him.
So now, how does somebody become wicked in the sight of the Lord? It means that you have to know the law. Why? This is Romans chapter 7, and I'm going to start at verse 7. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? God forbid. Nay, I had not known sin but by the law. Meaning that without there being a law, there can't be any sin. I had not known lust, except the law had said, Thou shalt not covet. But sin taketh an occasion by the commandment, wrought in me the manner of concupiscence. For without the law, sin was dead. So if sin is wickedness, if somebody does wickedness, then what that means is, you understand, when this man did unrighteousness before the Lord, when he did wickedness, it means he broke a law, because we've had laws since Adam. Otherwise, there would be no measuring stick for right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like there would be no measure in which there would be no moral compass, and that's why it's so important that we keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. You know what I'm saying? And that we know that this book is our history, because without it, how then? What would we do to measure righteousness? What would we do to measure what's right and wrong? We'd have to use ourselves. But the Lord's ways are higher than our ways. So when we go and we look at his word, when we go and look at his book, it's clear as day. This is what we do. This is what we don't do. And that's how we build a healthy society. All right, so now let's drop that. So remember, where there is no law, there is no sin. So nobody can turn around and make up a law. You know what I'm saying? So that's why you always got to, especially when somebody tries to tell you something you never heard, you got to say, man, show me that in the Bible. Show and prove. You understand? Hey, Shalom, y'all, what's up?
Hey, Shalom, y'all, Bashim Shabbat.
Shabbat, Zarawai, I see you on stage. I'm gonna make y'all moderators. You know what I'm saying, Zarawai? I'm not sure if you can, but if you could check the chat for questions, because I can't read it. And if anybody else has questions in the audience, you could either type them into the chat, or if you want to vocalize it, man, just raise your hand. Somebody will bring you up, and then you just say Salakia, and we'll be able to take your question on topic for now, all right? All right, so with that being said, let's drop that. So now the next thing that we got to do is let's go to Genesis 39 and 7.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 39 and verse 7. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph.
So now remember, Joseph was in captivity, right? He was sold as a slave. And now, you understand, the person whom he served, his wife, wanted to sleep with him. Go ahead.
And she said, Lie with me.
All right.
But he refused.
Go ahead.
But he refused and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master's wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath to my hand.
Good.
There is none greater in his house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me. But thee, because thou art his wife, how then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?
You understand? Meaning, how would he know that this is a sin? It's because we've had a law of adultery even before Moses. You understand? Meaning that we knew we were not to sleep with another man's woman. If there was no law, then how is it that, you understand, he knew that this would sin against God? He should have just slept with her. But there has always been that law that when a man lays down with a woman, that is his wife, and no other man is supposed to go in onto her. So you could find, like, if you know the law, if you're aware of this, then you can look at this and say, clearly this is thou shalt not commit adultery. Because clearly this brother knew that this here would be wickedness. So is that the only one? No. You know what I'm saying? So matter of fact, let's go back to Genesis chapter 38. So now remember, was slain, right? Because he was wicked in the sight of the Lord. So now let's read a little bit more. Let's go back to Genesis 38:7. Let's read a little bit more of that story. I almost skipped over it.
God, do you want me to start at 7 and read through?
Yeah, start at 7, read through, and then we'll pick it up from there.
God. This is the book of Genesis chapter 38 and verse 7. It says, and Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him.
And he was
verse
wicked in the sight of the Lord. Why? Because he committed a sin. Good.
Verse 8. And Judah said unto Onan, go into thy brother's wife and marry her and raise up seed to thy brother.
You understand? This is Deuteronomy 25:5, which we're going to get to in a minute. Meaning that there was a law so that your brother would be able to come back into the earth and keep his inheritance. That if your sister-in-law died, meaning that she became a childless widow because your brother died, you would go in on to her so that his lineage, his name could live on and he could receive his inheritance when he returns. Read on.
And Onan knew that the seed should not be his, and it came to pass when he went in to his brother's wife that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother.
So now he wanted all of the pleasure and none of the responsibility. Read on.
And the thing which he did displeased the Lord, wherefore he slew him also.
You understand? So now the Lord slew him. So now both of them died because they both committed sins. Now, it doesn't say what wickedness that the first brother committed, but we know here directly because of what Onan did, you know what I'm saying, that this is the law that he broke. So this is Deuteronomy 25:5. If brethren dwell together and one of them die and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her and take her to him to wife and perform the duty of an husband's brother unto her. So now this is the law that he broke. We've had laws. Why? Because inheritance is important when you have a nation. You know what I mean? Inheritance is land. Inheritance is what we pass down. Now in America, we're 400 years behind on intergenerational wealth. You know what I'm saying? So as a result of that, we don't really think about inheritance. Maybe now in like recent history, I'm starting to see more and more talks about it. You know what I'm saying? And it's extremely important because that elevates us from just being peons. That elevates us from the slaves that they wanted us to be, because you don't educate a slave. Like that's why they don't teach us about credit scores or intergenerational wealth or how to build it or acquire it or economics at all, you know what I'm saying, throughout the entire stay inside elementary school. You know what I'm saying? Intermediate school, public school, you know what I'm saying? Whatever it's called inside of your demographic. You know what I mean? Like they don't teach us any of these things to keep us down as a people. So now let's drop that. You know what I'm saying? So we see Joseph wouldn't commit adultery. You know what I'm saying? We see Onan wouldn't go and perform one of the laws of the kinsman. You know what I mean? We see Abraham had the law. Noah had the law. All of these brothers had it. Why? Because the law has been there since the breath of life. Because the breath of life that entered into Adam, that was the law. That was the instruction of the Most High. That was the laws, statutes, and commandments. So let's drop that and let's go to... You know what? Let's go back to Genesis 6:9. We're going to get with what you had before, too. And once again, there's countless amounts of examples. And even when it comes down to, like, for example, Sodom and Gomorrah, if there was no law against homosexuality, against sodomy, then why would the Lord then destroy those cities? Why would those cities be considered wickedness and filth? Why would they still be as an ensign for us today, meaning an example, a sign to know that this is an abomination, something that the Lord hates, something that the Lord wants to destroy? All right. So with that, let's read Genesis chapter 6 and verse 9.
This is the book of Genesis chapter 6 and verse 9. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generation. and Noah walked with God.
So now, perfect in your generations. What is a man's generations? Man's generations is his lineage. How would his lineage be perfect? You understand? Because in the beginning of this chapter, what we read was, we went over this a little bit last week, but what you read is that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair and took wives of which they wanted. The sons of God was Adam and his descendants. This is not talking about fallen angels. If it was, then why don't angels get punished in this chapter? If the males that were taking wives were daughters, right? Why then would only the men get punished when the men weren't the one taking the wives? The angels were. Unless those men were the quote-unquote sons of God that we're speaking of. So just to do like a quick review, because what the brother asked was he wanted to just understand as to how this was, you know what I'm saying, like when it comes down to his lineage, right? So this is Luke chapter 3, verse 38, which was the son of Enos, which was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, which was the son of God. Adam is called the son of God. This is a lineage going in reverse order. So what you see here is that Enos was the son of Seth. Adam's son was Seth. You understand? His grandson was Enos. But Adam was the son of God, because they that do the will of the Father, the same are called the son of God. So when we go back into Genesis and we're reading inside Genesis 6, what you're reading about is that you're reading about brothers who went in onto other women, created children, and then those children became men of renown. That's what a giant is. A giant isn't always somebody who's, 9, 10, 12 cubits tall. A giant is sometimes talking about your reputation. When you're a giant in the earth. I gave examples last week, like Elon Musk is a giant in the earth right now. Jay-Z is a giant in the music industry inside the earth right now. You know what I'm saying? Him and his wife are called a power couple. They call them tycoons. They call them moguls. They call them giants. Why? Because they are of renown. And then what you see is that all of this angers the Lord until when you come down and you see that Noah was perfect in his generations because he followed what was passed down to Adam. So what was passed down to Adam? Well, we have to go look at when Adam was given a wife, because you can find the laws all throughout the scriptures. So, for example, this is Genesis chapter 2, and I'm going to start at verse 21. You want to take that for me out?
Can you tell me the verse again? I'm sorry.
No sweat. Genesis chapter 2, verse 21.
This is Genesis chapter 2, verse 21. It says, "And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof."
So now, one of his ribs is talking about the flesh of his flesh, bone of his bone. Now, we went over last week where we showed examples in Samuel where David called all the tribes of Israel flesh of his flesh and bone of his bone. We saw where Laban, when he saw Jacob, he called him flesh of his flesh, bone of his bone, because flesh of your flesh, bone of your bone is your family. It's your tribe. It's your nation. You understand? So Adam didn't go and deal with all the other nations that were around. There were other people inside the garden, other tribes inside the garden. Instead, what Adam did was he went and got a woman from his nation and from his tribe. And when it got sewed up instead, it means that this is what we are supposed to do moving forward. We're not permitted to go and sleep with women interracially. You can't get yourself a white woman. You can't get yourself an East Indian. You can't get yourself a Hamite. You can't get yourself an Asian. You understand? I know we got to break a lot of brothers' hearts. Brothers, y'all can't get a Kardashian. It just don't work like that. You know what I mean? We laugh and we make the joke all the time about Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods ain't putt right since he got that white woman. She went upside his head with a 9-iron. You know what I mean? And what's crazy is I think she was the nanny. You know what I mean? Like it's literally insane to me that like brothers will go and they will uplift, you understand, another nation, but God forbid they go and get a sister from the hood. You know what I'm saying? And another thing, like even I'll be on a job, you know what I'm saying, or doing a job, and a white girl will walk by and a brother will be like, "Man, I want a white woman so bad." And I'm just like, so you get a white woman, right? I'm like, let me give you a scenario real quick. And after you get the white woman, you on a job and your foreman calls you a nigga. I'm like, you go home and you gonna explain that to Becky? Like I thought like, you know what I'm saying? Like how is your woman gonna understand your plight inside of the world if she doesn't experience what you experience? Don't make no damn sense. So, good.
So just pertaining to this breakdown on this right here, right? Me and a brother, we was going through it in Deuteronomy 7 from 1 to 3, and we was asking, because it does list off some nations, and our question was, does this still include everybody else as well as these nations that like it named off?
Yeah, because remember, there's a spirit to the law. You know what I'm saying? So here's my question, right? In Deuteronomy 7, what's the backdrop? What was Israel doing at this time?
I think they was marrying those other nations.
Okay, they weren't around these other nations yet. Because remember, so Deuteronomy 7:1 says, "When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into thy land, whither thou goest to possess it, and hath cast out many nations before thee." So now remember, they're not in the land yet. These nations are going to be cast out. So they were in the wilderness. You know what I mean? Remember, they left Egypt. They wandered around in the desert, you understand, for 60 some odd years, for long enough for an entire generation to get wiped out, except for two brothers, Joshua and Caleb. Moses didn't even make it into the promised land. He didn't cross the River Jordan. So it wasn't that they were marrying these nations yet. Why are these nations being mentioned?
Because these nations were in that land, and the Lord was going to take them out, or He was going to get them out of that land before we got in there.
So meaning that these are now the nations that Israel's going to be around, which is why the Lord is specifically naming these nations at this time. This is who they're going to make war with, because they're not going to make war with Esau. That's not who the Lord said you're going to make war with. They're also not going to invade the Moabites' land or the Ammonites' land. But we are going into the land of these people, which is why he's directly reiterating it. But if we were to go make war with anybody else, what would the spirit behind the law be?
Don't make marriages with these other nations. Because
good.
The Psalms 83, right? Because this is what I was thinking. I was like, well, if these were our enemies, and we slew our enemies, then we still have enemies, beyond just these that are named off. So why would we then make it okay to marry these other enemies? You know what I'm saying?
It wouldn't make any sense. And then it's all over the scriptures, especially to be able to understand the spirit behind the law. This is why Christ always brought up that there was a spirit behind the law. That looking at it black and white, like these specific nations were mentioned, is why the scribes, the Sadducees, the Pharisees were failing. Because when they saw, hold on, I see somebody with their hand raised. I'm gonna pull you up on stage right now. So when they saw, you understand, like the law, they looked at it as just the letter, every single word, instead of looking at the spirit as to why it was written. And that's what Christ came to show us. So, for example, this is Nehemiah, the 13th chapter, and I'm going to start at verse 20. I'm going to start at 23. In those days, I saw Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab. Now, Ammon and Moab were not mentioned inside of Deuteronomy 7, correct? So let's keep reading. And their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. And this is why they had that counsel for divorce, because the culture of the Lord was getting bastardized. And this is why I'll be on stage and a brother will say something like, yeah, like the ox or the okiums. And I'll be like, brother, please don't put an S at the end of it. You know what I'm saying? They'll be like, oh, why? Because you're now adding a heathen language to our dialect. Because akyum is plural. Ak is singular. If you say akyums, it's already plural. You're making it a double plural from the tongue of another nation. That's what they were doing here. You know what I'm saying? Like everything was getting bastardized. 25. And I contended with them and cursed them and smote certain of them and plucked of their hair and made them swear by God, saying, ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons. So now this is not talking about the Jebusites, the Perizzites, or any of those nations in Deuteronomy 7. This is talking about other nations. Why? Because interracial marriage with any nation is a sin. Nor take their daughters unto your sons or for yourselves. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among many nations was there no king like him. Because remember, the Queen of Sheba used to come see him. Everybody used to come and want to get some of Solomon's wisdom. You know what I'm saying? But even he fell weak and sinned by these things. Why? Because he started to love other gods, who was beloved of his God. God made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin. So then my question to you is, what nations did Solomon deal with? Did he only deal? Now, if we go literal, then so far, the wives of Ashdod, Ammon, Moab, the Hamites, you know what I'm saying? All those sons of Canaan over inside the land, the Jebusites, the Perizzites, the Gerbusites, all these cats should all be unlawful. So then if we take it literal, then we should be able to sleep with Edomites then, correct?
Lie.
I'm glad you said that. Now, I had to test the brother real quick. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be like that fake Israelite JJ7000, man. I'm glad Sinetta was roasting him earlier. But point being is, now we got to go and take a look at what Solomon did. So we're going to go to 1 Kings, the 11th chapter, and just show that you'll be able to see all of this. So now, but King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh. So now we're talking about Mizraim, woman of the Moabites, the Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites. So we see that he went into other nations who weren't mentioned. So just because those other nations weren't mentioned specific, the spirit behind it is we are not to deal with women from other nations. That is a sin unto our God. You understand?
Con.
And especially, why would you want to deal with a woman that you can't even bring into the congregation? Heathens aren't allowed inside the congregation.
Right. It was we was going over something, and I was saying that I brought up there was a lot we can't even sleep with or like make marriages within the heathen, and I had read it, and he was like, well, we had read all the way down. I said, well, I think there might be another precept for it, but at first I was saying that was the precept to show that, or that was the law to show that. But I thought there might have been another one that might have been more I don't know how you say it, more, I guess, direct, but that was direct. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, for sure. Like, especially like I said, if you go to Nehemiah, so what? Now Nehemiah is not a prophet, so now he doesn't interpret the law for us. Why then would he be mad at Moab? Is he going against the law of Moses, or does he understand the spirit behind the law too? That this is what happens when you deal with strange women. So there's a gang of them as well. And once again, Lamentations 1:10 says, the adversary had spread out his hand upon all her pleasant things. For she had seen that the heathen entered into her sanctuary, whom thou didst command that they should not enter into thy congregation. So if heathens can't enter into the congregation, what are you doing marrying them?
Right.
They make no sense.
Shalom.
Shalom, sis. You have a question?
I have a lot of questions, but I guess I'll start with my first one if you don't mind.
Is it on topic?
Yes, sir.
All right, come on with it.
Okay, so my first question, right? So if Noah had the law, right, which was the oral law, right, prior to, and we can see that via the scriptures, right, especially the ones that you brought out, then his sons would have had the law, right?
Right.
right? And then so if his sons had the law, wouldn't that like because all nations come from Noah, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that mean the heathens who are now the heathens today, right, or even in the scriptures, they once had the law, right?
Okay.
That was a question. Yes.
Okay. So what happens is that I don't know if you were in here when I was reading Judith, right? But Noah taught his children, but that doesn't mean that his children kept those things. So there's a reason.
Right.
So there's a reason why there was a nation who became chosen, because over time there were people who, or nations rather, that they started to go away from what their fathers had taught them. You know what I mean? So were you in here when I was reading inside of Judith?
Yes. And that's why I started thinking about that question. And I'm sorry not to cut you off. I apologize.
No, no, sweat. And this kind of proves as to why the Bible is 100% true and accurate, because you see similarities to Israel inside other nations. For example, every ancient culture and nation and society has a flood story. Why would they then have a flood story? Because this was an event that affected all of those families, and it became an oral tradition that was passed down to them. So once it was passed down to them, you know what I'm saying, now it started to change. It started to mutate. It started to get bastardized. Now, the size of the vessel may have changed. The amount of animals may have changed. Even how the flood came might have changed. But they're all synonymously tied together. Like the common denominators are animals, a flood, and people on a craft together, surviving it. Same thing, like even if you go and you look into a lot of ancient societies, they all have an evil serpent at the beginning of creation. The Chinese have it. Even when you go and look at Sumerian, like you look at their quote unquote deities, they look serpent like, interfering with men. Now why? Because we have known about the serpent in the garden. But the difference is that we were given the direct one that wasn't tainted, because we are the nation that the Lord chose. And the reason being is because Abraham was chosen. Why? Because he didn't worship the gods of the Chaldeans. When everyone else went off into a pagan practice, he went and kept the faith of the old. And it's the same thing. Like what in essence what you're asking is a repeated thing that even happened before the flood. Because remember, like, by that point, Noah wouldn't have been the only descendant of Adam. Their family would have grown. Why was Noah showing grace? Because Noah kept the old way. Noah didn't go off from what Adam was taught, from what Adam was told. And that's the same thing that Abraham did. And that's why Abraham was chosen.
Salakia. So is that why, like, sometimes when you read in the scriptures, Israel's reference to heathens, it's because when I looked up the definition of heathen, it just simply means an uncivilized person or people, right? And so when you look at the actual heathens, right, that were not chosen of Israel, right, it simply means they're uncivilized, which was caused through a decision to not follow the old ways, right? Is
Oh,
that what you're saying?
okay, no. Okay, that term, first of all, the word heathen and the word Gentile and the word nation are all the same word. It's just the translators put the context inside of there based on their understanding when you see that word. So all of that would be goy, or what they would call goyim, the other nations. So the word heathen, the word nation, and the word Gentile is all goyim. It's the context that lets you know if it's derogatory or not. So it ended up becoming like a byword towards people who weren't us. You know what I'm saying? Because somebody who's one of us, they were Ak. They were Akwath. You know what I'm saying? They're a part of our chosen people. They're our brothers and sisters. Anybody who's not a part of us is a stranger, is a goy, is the goyim, is another nation. So what you're looking at is different time periods, because what you have is the Lord reset everything after Noah. You know what I'm saying? And then all those different nations came on the earth until the Lord decided to start over with his chosen. And then once he picked who he chose, he creates this nation, and this is who's supposed to rule the earth now, the same way Adam and his descendants were supposed to. But he starts over after the flood. You understand?
Yes, I'm following you.
Did I answer your question, or you need more?
Nah, you answered it, but I still got a lot of questions, but I'll just wait.
Okay, come on with it. What you got?
Okay, so my next question is okay, because I read in Numbers, right? And when it speaks specifically about like how Israel's also not supposed to, like, within Israel, we weren't supposed to like intermingle with each other, right? And then you spoke about the spirit behind the law, like, or the laws that we had, or that we've been given rather. And then I look at the story of Ruth, and she's not of Israel. Well, in my mind, I think she's Israel, but I don't know
No,
how to prove that, so I got to.
Ruth is an Israelite, but
I believe.
no, that's a fact. But even outside of that, other tribes could mix with each other. It's just there was laws once they did, because we had inheritance. So when it comes down to inheritance, there was certain laws to make sure, once again, the reason that, like, if when you read inside Judges, Dan never went and conquered their inheritance. Dan never went and got their never went and got their land. And in order to be a tribe, you need two things. You need an abundance of sons, because you are the seed of your father, and you need land, and that is your inheritance that you pass down to your people. So to make sure that no one tribe would overtake another, just think about gentrification. All it takes is one white person to come in and then start jogging in your neighborhood, and you know what I'm saying. And before you know it, everybody starts to get pushed out until there's a Whole Food inside of Harlem. You know what I'm saying? And there's one black business on Malcolm X Boulevard on 125th Street and Lenox Ave. Because we gave up our inheritance in that area. Not even that we owned it or this is our land, but that's just a minute example of what happened to us. So we did that to make sure that we wouldn't gentrify each other in an area, that we wouldn't make anyone else obsolete according to their own land, so the land would stay within the father's family and not another tribe, so that Judah wouldn't absorb all the land of Manasseh, or Ephraim wouldn't absorb all the land of Simeon, or Simeon wouldn't absorb all the land of Issachar. So tribes could have mingled together. That's not an issue, but it's really just about the inheritance that comes down to it.
Okay, Khan, thank you.
And then Ruth was for sure an Israelite. I don't know if I have time to give the entire breakdown. Let me see, time is it 8:10? Maybe what I'll do is maybe next week I'll go into the entire breakdown of Ruth. It is a long breakdown, but just in to give you the short of it is, all right. Right now, I'll use Harlem as an example. They're trying to call Harlem Soha. Nobody calls Harlem Soha. You know what I'm saying? Like we all call it Harlem still. So just because somebody tries to rename something doesn't mean that, you know what I'm saying, you don't call it by the land. Even that's why inside the scriptures, sometimes you see the land of Israel, sometimes you see the land of Canaan, but the land of Israel is inside the land of Canaan. Because that was our land, that was our inheritance, that's where we were. We called things by the names that they were. Well, there was a place that was called the Plains of Moab, and it was located inside the land of Reuben. And it was right on the other side of Jericho, above the Arnon River. And when you look, that's where the story of Ruth took place. Because you can go and you can find Moses died in the plains of Moab. Now, those didn't belong to Moab at that time. So just like a brief version of the history is Israel, when they came into the land, they were told not to take any land from Moab or Ammon. But we were allowed to take land from all the other nations. Well, Moab's borders used to be way, way, way bigger. But the Amorites came and they challenged the Moabites and shrunk their borders to the Arnon River. So when we came in, we destroyed the Amorites from there all the way up to Mount Hermon. And then that side of the River Jordan was plains. You know what I'm saying? That's why I keep saying the plains of Moab. And it was good for cattle. And Gad and Reuben, they like to raise cattle. You know what I'm saying? Much like you see in America that like they went and hunted the buffalo. So they asked if their lot of inheritance could fall on that side of the River Jordan. And Moses said, no problem, but when we go to war, I'm going to call upon you and I'm going to need men from your tribe. So that was the agreement that they made. That was inside the book of Numbers and Deuteronomy. So the land still stayed the same name, meaning they kept calling it the Plains of Moab. But they never but that doesn't mean that it belonged to Moabites. And it's the same way like the same way Ruth was called like a Moabitish damsel, that because she lived in the land, is the same way Uriah was called a Hittite, is the same way that what's his name, Elijah was called a Tishbite. It's the same way when you read about Micah, the word of the Lord that came to Micah, the Morishite, when we know Micah was an Israelite. You know what I'm saying? Because it's no different than where you from, sis? Like geographically, like what city you in?
I'm from California.
So, you know what I'm saying? It would be like calling you the Californian. You know what I'm saying? It'd be like calling me the New Yorker. You understand?
Yes, I was thinking that.
That's exactly what they were doing, because that land once upon a time belonged to Moab. It kept the name, and they would call anybody who lived in that area according to that name.
Khan, thank you.
No sweat. Any other questions?
Nah, I'm good for right now. I have one off topic, but I'll wait to the end.
Okay, no sweat. I can't see the chat. Zarawai, can you, if you could see the chat, could you let me know if there's any questions inside there? Also, if anybody wants to come up on stage, all you'd have to do is just raise your hand. You could ask whatever questions that you like. I'm actually gonna open up the floor to off-topic questions.
Oh, so there's no questions in the chat right now.
Okay, no sweat. So then, sis, do you have any off-topic questions?
I do, but give me a second to gather my thoughts because I gotta remember it.
Okay, no sweat. And if anybody else wants to come on stage, you can go ahead and raise your hand. Bear with me 1 second. I'm just gonna check YouTube. What is this? That's funny as hell. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Bear with me 1 second. I just gotta check. I want to make sure there's no other questions in the other live chats. We're good to go here. Subscribe to our new channel, ISUPK Boston, as well. They keep shutting our channels down. Malakwat, that's funny as hell. He said because y'all was teaching the truth. He's funny as hell. I don't see anything on Facebook either.
Salakia, Cap, I'm back.
No sweat. You got any questions?
Let me see. Oh, a precept that I want to bring out earlier. I've been told before that it's a deep precept, but I just kind of want to see how you take it, right? This is the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7 and verse 24. It says, "For wisdom is more moving than any motion. She passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness. For she is the breath of the power of God, and a pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty. Therefore can no defiled thing fall into her." So I was showing that breath of life that Adam got was that wisdom from the Most High God. So I was gonna bring it out earlier, or try to bring it out earlier whenever you was going through the breakdown, but I was like, well, I'm gonna see if he touches up on it, and then if he doesn't touch up on it, then it's like, well, it might not have been needed, you know.
No, for sure. And once again, this is, the more you start to read, the more you start to see, okay, so this is what the Lord gave us. And it's like when I first learned that hell was a condition on earth. And then I read Jonah 2:2, that Jonah crieth out of the belly of hell by reason of his affliction. And then you start to, I said, so is this a precept for hell? He was like, yeah. He's like, damn right. So, and that's why what I was stating earlier is why brothers and sisters need to start off with milk. You know what I'm saying? I could show you that Christ came here 5 times. Show you the regeneration is reincarnation in the scriptures. Could show you all these things. But that's meat. What good is that if you don't understand the basics of the scriptures? Like a brother called me up the other day asking about the serpent in the garden. And I gave him the breakdown, you know what I'm saying? I busted it down to show him that was a man, but he was still wrestling with it a little bit. And I'm like, but that's because you still need milk. And he's like, oh, I've been reading the Bible forever. And I try to explain to him that you can't put new wine into old bottles. You got to pour everything out that you think you know and start fresh. You know what I'm saying? You have to get the basics, you know what I'm saying, the building blocks. And then from there, you'll be able to see the rest of it. But you can't just start off thinking you're going to have a steak, man. You got to be weaned from the breast. That's how it works. That is a metaphor for the basics. All right?
Con.
Any other questions?
Yes. When you say the basics of the milk, right? It's simply the law, right? Like understanding the law, right?
Well, that's a part of the basics. You know what I'm saying? Knowing that you can't eat pork, crab, shrimp, lobster. We can't celebrate holidays. Those are the basics as far as the bare minimum that we're supposed to do. But I'm talking more so about understanding doctrine, understanding what's inside the scriptures, because the Bible is written in dark sayings. To see in the dark, you need a light. You know what I'm saying? And the light is, you understand, the chief and principal teachings from the prophets. That's where true doctrine comes from. And that's where it comes down to showing that the Gentiles are what do you call it? Are could be Israelites or could be non-Israelites, and understanding the context to show which one it is and which one it isn't. You know what I'm saying? Something else that's probably like a little bit meatier is, Cornelius is an Israelite. I don't know how it ends up being so difficult for Ruth to be an Israelite. I don't know why a heathen would have a book inside our record. You know what I'm saying? Which is why if there's anything I could tell brothers and sisters, it's don't forget what you know trying to learn something new. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be able to hold on to the basics. So, for example, a couple of milk scriptures. And that's the one thing, too. Like, every battle that I've ever been in, milk always destroys them. You know what I'm saying? It's never like you really got to go anywhere deep, because Christianity is garbage. So, for example, Psalms 147:19, he showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation. As for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord. So if we know that, then Ruth cannot be another nation, because this is milk. This is the basics. The Lord does not deal with any other nation how he deals with Israel. And then you start to build on that. And then once you have those principles, you know what I'm saying? Like once that's ingrained into you, then now when you read the Bible, even if you see something that might look like a contradiction, you might not know what it's saying, but you know what it can't be saying. So I'll give you another one. So this is another quote unquote milk scripture for just the basics of understanding our nation, our culture. This is Amos 3:1. Hear this, the word that the Most High had spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. So once you read those two scriptures and you see precept upon precept, line upon line, then we know what? The Lord's not dealing with any other nation, with any other family on the earth. So if you see something that remotely looks like it, then you know that you just don't understand the context and you have a little bit more ways to go before you could read it. Much like when you read the American Constitution. You know what I mean? Like without proper historical context, all men were created equal. Sounds like it's talking about all of us. Sounds like it's talking about everybody. You know what I'm saying? But if you know the actual history, you know that our people were enslaved. You know about the 3/5 compromise. So you know all men were created equal was not talking about us, which is why the context is so important. And when you understand that the Bible is our constitution, that when it makes a statement like to every creature or for the world, then you know that the context has to be talking about Israel, because this book is written to Israel. It's how Israel was formed. You know what I'm saying? Like Israel, you know what I'm saying, comes. Why? Because we see the flood with Adam. We see it come all the way on down to Abraham. We see how the nation was formed. We see we went into captivity. We see how we left captivity and grew and became a sovereign nation. How we failed, how we fall, and then how we're going to rise again and be redeemed. That's the entire story. That's the entire book. That's its entire purpose. It's exclusive to Israel only. So it's like those are the basics. Who Christ died for, those scriptures. John 3:16 breakdown, that's milk. Who the other nations are, who Esau is, all of that is basics and milk scriptures. Now something that's a little bit deeper, like I said, is reincarnation. Is Christ was here 5 times. Is Elijah was John the Baptist. Is the entire book of Revelations, the prophecies, so on and so forth. You understand?
Yeah, yes, that makes a lot of sense because when I first read the book of Ruth, I had to read it like 5 times. But I'm like, man, because what they're speaking about is the law in the book of Ruth, but I could not prove it. So I'm like, she had to be an Israelite. Like it just doesn't make sense. But I do have another question, but I guess I can wait till somebody else go because it's on the point that you were touching about just the milk. And there's something that I've been curious about and I've asked about it, but I've gotten the same answer, but I don't know, I don't believe it.
Oh, okay, no sweat. So the 2 other people raised their hands, so I'll come back to
Okay.
you in a second, sis. So Brittany M., you raised your hand first. You have a question?
Salakia, shalom, sir.
Hey, Shalom.
My question, you had just mentioned about the precept on precept, and I had someone that was talking to me about that and trying to challenge it because I guess I think it's in Isaiah, verse 13 mentions it actually being bad, like not bad in a certain way, but it caused like them to fall back and be snared and taken. And can you explain a little bit about how that precept on precept that I guess ended up causing that verse 13 being like a negative thing?
I got you. So it's like a double-edged sword. You know what I'm saying? So there's a reason why, for example, I'm going to go to Isaiah, the 28th chapter. And that'll give you the entire context. So Isaiah 28 and I guess verse, 9? Yeah, boom. So verse 9 will pretty much answer everything, where it says, whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? So it's a very uncommon thing to understand the Bible. It's not common. You know what I'm saying? Most people do not understand the Bible. That's why even when you go and you talk to your pastor, who's been your pastor for 20, 30 years, you ask him a question, he'll tell you, I don't know. Oh, you just got to have faith. Who are you to question the mysteries of God? Pray on it. You know what I'm saying? When he has no idea what the hell he's talking about. You know what I'm saying? And it says, them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line upon line, here a little and there a little. So these things that we're reading about here this is the proper way of doing it. Now, if you want to see the improper way of doing it, all you got to do is Boom. I'm looking at a room right now. Deuteronomy 28, don't make black American Israelites. That's how it's harmful. You understand? When somebody who doesn't have the knowledge tries to take a precept and break it down onto a false understanding. Because the Bible is not the Bible is not a book that is made for everybody to just pick it up and understand it. You know what I'm saying? Meaning like it's not like everybody thinks because we're God's chosen people, we have such pride when it comes to God. We have such pride when it comes to the Most High that we believe that all I got to do is pick up the Bible and read it, and you don't have to be taught by somebody more learned than you. When anything on the planet, you have to learn from someone else. You understand? So if you want to learn something, even if you have to go to YouTube, that's your teacher. I don't care if it's crocheting. I don't care if it's how to change a ballast in a light bulb. You understand? You have to go and learn from somebody who knows how to do it better than you. And if you want to do it a professional way, you go to trade school. You know what I'm saying? You want to be an electrician? There's only two ways to be an electrician. Either you study at the foot of a journeyman, at a trained mechanic, at a licensed electrician, or you go to trade school. If you want to be a doctor, you understand, in the old days, either you studied at the foot of a doctor or you have to go to medical school, make you take the whole Hippocratic oath, so on and so forth, and then you get certified before you do it. But all of a sudden, the Bible, anybody could pick this up and understand it? No, that's not how things work. That's why the scriptures say they're of no private interpretation, but rather they come from holy men with the Holy Spirit who prophesied. So the only way to get the true doctrine, the true precept upon precept, is to go to actual priests and prophets of the Lord who have the Holy Spirit. There's no other way around it. You know what I'm saying? Like without that, you're going to continue to be lost inside the scriptures. You might be able to grab a little bit of milk and understand key concepts, but Christianity is always going to come in your mind, and then that's when it gets like for example, you said 13, but the word of the Lord was unto them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little, that they might go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken, meaning in the wrong hands. You understand? You can flip a precept to make it look any other way. And what I mean is sometimes what I do is I play Christian. And because I know the precepts, I'll challenge a brother and I'll bring him to Galatians and have him break down how the law isn't done away with. You know what I'm saying? And because he might not know enough, he might get snared up. And that's why I got to tell him, you got to study more. You understand, sis?
Concert the water.
I know, boy. Judah Princess, I believe you were next. You got a question, sis?
Yeah, Shalom. I
Shalom.
heard that you said that Jesus was mentioned, Christ was mentioned 5 times. Is that in the Old Testament?
Okay.
Like here 5 times.
He was here 5 times. That's in the Old and the New Testament. I'll give you one of the easiest precepts to understand it. So this is Revelations, and I'm going to go to 22. And this is Revelations chapter 22, verse 16. I'm going to say Yahushua, even though it says Jesus, all right? I, Yahushua, have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David and the bright and morning star. So what you're literally reading here is, matter of fact, let me ask you, what does it mean to be the root of something?
The root is maybe the offspring, or
Well, the offspring is what comes after.
After. So maybe the foundation of somebody?
The foundation, the beginning. So he said, I am the beginning and the offspring of David. So we'll go in reverse for now. What was David's offspring?
His children.
You were about to say it.
Oh,
What would you say?
I would say it would be his children.
Would be his children, but it's not saying offsprings. It's saying offspring.
Offspring. Okay.
So that one. So he's saying, I'm Solomon. Remember, the prophecy was for Solomon. You know what I'm saying? That his kingdom would be forever. But Solomon lost the kingdom. It split. So how does that get rectified? Because he came back and got it right as Christ. Now, it also said that he was the root. So if the offspring is the direct descendant of, meaning Solomon, because remember, everybody would say, who are you? And he would, you know what I'm saying, or who do you think I am? And they would say the son of David. Why would they say the son of David? Because everyone was waiting for Solomon's return. Some of them were waiting for the literal return, thought he was going to come out the clouds as Solomon himself in that body. You understand? But instead, he came back in the ghetto. You understand? They thought he was coming on a chariot. He rode into town on a donkey. They called him the carpenter's son. Can any good thing come out of Nazareth? Even though he was a direct descendant of the house of David. He was next in line to be the king. So now that's the offspring. So he's saying, I am. So he's that. So then what then would the root be?
Then he will also be, was he Adam?
Yes. Get man, for those, man, get that sister a hand, man. You got to applaud that. So he was Adam. And this is why, you understand, it says that there's the first Adam and the last Adam. Remember, what you bind in heaven, you bind on earth. Remember the Our Father. Let thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Well, in heaven, the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, is the Most High. On earth, we have an Alpha and Omega, which is who, sis?
On earth it must be Christ then.
It would be Christ. So the Alpha and Omega in Hebrew is the Ah and the Tha, the first and the last, right? So the last would be Christ. So then who would be the first?
Christ.
Well, it would be Adam. But it would be Christ, meaning his spirit was in Adam. Yeah. So this is why he was the one who had to fix everything, because he was the one who broke it.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. That's like Ecclesiastics.
Exactly. It's completion. It's full completion of everything. It's he was the one who brought death into the world, and the first Adam was made a living soul. But the last man, Adam, was made a quickening spirit, meaning what? He has the power to give life. So we all got put to death because of him. Now we all got spared because of him. Now he gave us life because of him. He is the root and the offspring of David. So now I told you that this was in the Old Testament as well. So let me just give you an example just to show you further. So this is Isaiah 11. So when you read Isaiah 11, and I'm going to start at verse 10. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse. Now, right now it's saying a root of Jesse because who is Jesse's son? Do you know?
Jesse's son, David.
Was David. So the root of David and the root of Jesse would both be the same thing. So there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign for the people. It shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. This is talking about Christ.
Okay.
You understand? So he is the root of David, the root of Jesse. Why? Because he's the Alpha and Omega. He is the first Adam and the last Adam. He met the Alpha and Omega. He messed up in the beginning. He came back. And then once you start to realize things like this, then other things start to become even clearer. So I'm going to see if you see this one as well. All right. So now, this is Matthew's 1:1. The book of the generation of Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. So why is he the son of David?
Why is he the son of David? Because he must be the son of David. So he must be Solomon.
He must be Solomon. Now check this one out. He's also the son of Abraham.
Son of Abraham. Okay.
So he must be what?
Jacob.
No.
Abraham. Okay, he must be Isaac.
Isaac. Now check this out. Who is supposed to be sacrificed?
Okay. So Isaac was supposed to be sacrificed.
Isaac was supposed to be sacrificed. How many days was he gone with Isaac when he went to sacrifice him?
I don't recall.
3.
3 days.
So
he was in the belly earth 3 days.
You see how everything lines up?
Yeah, I do now. Yeah.
Now check this out. Also,
So shall be the Son of Man.
and he went to sacrifice. Like when you go and you look at how he was going to sacrifice him on the wood, with you understand, and so on and so forth. When he built the altar, all of that is directly synonymous with Christ. You understand? And then remember, even in, and I'm freestyling right now. I don't have the breakdown in front of me, so I'm hoping this is the exact verse. Okay, boom. Galatians 3:16. Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He said, not and seeds as of many, but of one, and to thy seed, which is Christ. Why? Because Abraham's son was Isaac. Christ was here 5 times. He was Adam, he was Isaac, he was Solomon, he made an appearance as Melchizedek. And then he came finally and got everything right as Yahushua Mashiach, as the anointed, as the Messiah.
Oh, that's very good, because I was always wondering. I wanted to ask that, who was Melchizedek, because I know the Levites wasn't established like that at the time. So who was it? So it must have been Adam, but he was here. So Adam came before Isaac, so he was always here. He was just coming back. So that's what you're saying.
Exactly, and this is why, once again, it's like everything started with Christ, it ended with him. You know what I'm saying? He had to seal everything up, and it's why it's when it said that he would be a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. So when he came, it was an appearance. You know what I'm saying? Much like how angels appear. So it wasn't a coronation. He wasn't born. It was strictly just to establish the priesthood, so that we would know that it wasn't supposed to stay just with the Levites, but there was always a priesthood that was supposed to be here forever. Remember, Melchizedek is not a name; it's a title. It's Malakia Tazadak. It's the King of Righteousness. Who has that title?
Christ. Okay. Thank you.
No sweat. So those are just a couple of scriptures for that. But go ahead.
You got 2 questions in the chat. One is on topic and one is off topic.
All right.
The one on topic is from Sister Hannah. Says, does this speak to regeneration?
Yes, it speaks to regeneration. Regeneration is the Israelite term for reincarnation. And I'm not talking about how it was bastardized in the concept of Hinduism. I'm speaking to how, you understand, your soul inhabits different bodies. Right now you're in this body, and when you die, your soul goes to the Most High. You are judged, and then you come back into a new body and refill the face of the earth. So that is the regeneration. Christ was here 4 times that we know of, that the scriptures say, that we just read a moment ago. When he was the root, which was Adam. When he was the son of Abraham, which is Isaac. When he had an appearance as Melchizedek, that was not a direct regeneration as if he came in the flesh. You understand? He just made an appearance. Then as Solomon, because he was the offspring of David. And then after that, he became Yahushua Mashiach.
Khan. The second one, sir. You want the second one?
Baba Kasha.
Khan from Brother Gabriel says, do y'all have a class online about Passover, or can you give a class on how to celebrate the Passover?
What you should for sure do, is you should come down and celebrate it with us. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not supposed to be celebrating the Passover as individuals. We're supposed to be celebrating the Passover as a nation. We're all supposed to, like, just like back in the day, you understand, everybody would make that journey, you understand, those who could, to Jerusalem to celebrate it. You understand? Well, today Jerusalem is no more, but it is the government. You understand that? And Jerusalem is represented by the priests and prophets that are inside the ISUPK. So what you want to do, if you want to celebrate the Passover correctly, you come down, you understand, and you make that sojourn, and you come and break bread with your brothers. All right. Any other questions?
Sir, not in the chat. If I could, sir,
Please.
if I could go back to the to Genesis, the 6th chapter. I was trying to see if this was a precept for the giants, meaning for their reputation. The book of Baruch, chapter 3 and verse 26.
All right, let's go there.
If this would be a precept. Khan, the book of Baruch, chapter 3, verse 26. It says, there were giants famous from the beginning that were of so great stature and so expert in war.
That's a perfect precept. You know what I'm saying? To let you know that the stature they're talking about is reputation. So like he gonna get mad at me, but Captain Tazariak is a giant in the truth. You understand? He's a giant inside this work. I know he either gonna chime in and cuss me out right now or text me in the back, but you know what I'm saying. But the point being is, it's talking about your reputation. That is a perfect precept. So like you sir.
I said I'm gonna let you slide.
he gonna let me make it today. You know what I mean? But that is a perfect precept to let you know that it's not talking about somebody that was 30 feet tall or nothing like that. You know what I mean? That's in the imagination of Christians who don't understand the Bible, because when we read the scriptures, we can't read it through a European lens. We can't read it through a Western lens. We have to read it through the culture of our people, and we do that by getting the proper interpretation by the priests and prophets, as we spoke about earlier. Sis K. Allen, I seen you come on stage. You have a question?
Khan, shalom.
Shalom, sis.
As far as the glorified body, is 1 Corinthians 15:52 a precept? I'm sorry, not a precept, a verse reference. If not, can you give me like 2 verse reference for the glorified body?
1 Corinthians 15 and what?
52?
52. In a moment, yes, this is a perfect precept. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye is like a blink. In the blink of an eye, at the last trump, when the last trumpet is sound, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. That is a perfect precept for it. The other one is, I believe it's Thessalonians 4 and 16. Let me see. Either first or second. Boom. Yep. 1 Thessalonians 4 and 16. For the Lord himself shall descend shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be called up together with him in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. So those are 2 verses, 2 perfect precepts to show, and where we shall be transformed in the twinkling of an eye. Much like even when you see the disciples didn't recognize Christ when he first came back. So when Christ had first returned, he was also transformed. He had the same body, but he was inside of his incorruptible flesh. All right.
Khan, all praises to the Most High. Thank you.
All right. I am the bosses. Any other questions? Let me know if there's anything in the chat.
Concert. We got one in the chat from Sister Judah. Can you hear the trumpets when they are sound?
Yeah, I think the scriptures say everybody's gonna hear it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's everybody's going to see it. You know what I'm saying? And that's why even when it turns around and says, is it in this verse? Or is it in... Let me see something real quick. think it might be in Second Ezra's. Second Ezra's 13, and I'm gonna start at 29. Hold on, let me get there. So this is Second Ezra chapter 13 and 29. Behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. And he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth. Because so many people think Christ is not coming back. They want to act like this is a spook god or some spook religion. When the fact of the matter is, then why does the so-called white man have a space force? You understand? Like, why are they preparing for what they called intergalactic battle? You know what I mean? Like, it don't make no sense but the fact that Christ is returning with his military. And he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth, and one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. And that's what you're seeing happening right now with Russia and with Ukraine and everybody else getting involved, and how this is affecting the French economy, which the French inside the scriptures is Gomer. And Gomer, or France, is going to separate from America, from the UN, from NATO, and join on to the Russians. You know what I mean? The same way they sent a missile strike over in Saudi Arabia the other day. Because this is realm against realm, one people against another. And the time shall pass when these things shall come to pass, that the sign shall happen which I showed before thee, and then shall my son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending. You understand? So this is, we know he's talking about Yahushua. And when all the people hear his voice, now you see here it says, and when all the people hear his voice, this loud trump that everybody's going to hear, the earth is going to hear. Every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another, meaning that they're going to leave fighting each other. Like that third world's war is going to end inside that moment. And an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together, as thou sawest them, willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. You understand? So like, they're going to be so proud that they think that they're going to stop fighting each other and then fight Christ and the angels, and they're going to be destroyed. If y'all see the PTR at the top, it says ISUPK Boston. That is our new channel. They shut down our first channel with like 6,000 subscribers. We rebuilt it again. They shut it down again, and then they shut down the third one. So you know what I'm saying? We not gonna stop. But if you want to get more visuals on this class or others, you know what I'm saying, definitely join in. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe to the house and subscribe to that channel. All right. So Khan, everybody on the earth is going to hear it. Everyone's going to know that Christ has returned. Any other questions?
Nah, sir, no more questions in the chat.
All right, let me see if anybody else came up. All right, so replays are on. This class was also broadcasted on YouTube for anybody who missed the entire breakdown, showing that we've had the law since Adam. Mainly, like only people who really might be able to battle with that is quote unquote Old Testament Israelites, because they don't understand the Old Testament. They don't understand the Bible. They don't know the law. Otherwise, they'd know we've had it since Adam. I see somebody else came up. Good.
Khan, we have a sister that just came up. She might have a question.
You got a question, sis?
Salakia. My question is Psalms 82. It's speaking about the Most High standing amongst the congregation and judging the gods, and then telling later in the chapter, I think 6, like, ye are gods, but you'll die like men. Who is the audience in this? I had someone try to tell me it was like the other gods of other nations, which I don't believe is true, but is there a way that you can kind of break down that chapter 82 and what's happening there?
Okay, this is talking to Israel. You know what I'm saying? It says, God standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth among the gods. What you'll see is there's even a law that says you shall not revile the gods, because that word God is Elohim, or what they say is Elohim, which is judges, rulers, or authorities. So there are gods on earth, powers, judges, authorities. You've seen some of them, especially in the book of Judges. Samson would be considered a god. You know what I'm saying? Meaning what? A judge. How long will ye judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? Selah. So now it's talking about those that are supposed to be judging not doing their job. Defend the poor and fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and the needy. So this is talking about the Israelites who are supposed to be in power, supposed to be doing righteous judgment. Deliver the poor and needy. Rid them out of the hand of the wicked. They know not, neither will they understand. They will walk on in darkness. All the foundation of the earth are out of course. So meaning that without darkness, you have no light. You have no knowledge. You have no wisdom. So therefore, they're not judging properly. I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. This is how you know what we were talking about earlier, that was talking about Adam's descendants. Because Israel are gods. We are God's chosen people. We are all children of the Most High. But ye shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. So meaning like we're not God like the Most High. You understand? But we are supposed to be that representation on the earth. And then just a perfect precept is when Christ was talking to the Pharisees, he said, he cut them, says, does not your law say that ye are gods? I believe that is John 10. Yup. I was just reading this the other day. Because every other chapter inside John, they wanted to kill Yahushua because he was saying he was the only one with the truth. So this is John chapter 10 and verse 34. And Yahushua answered them, is it not written in your law? I said, ye are gods. You understand? So when it was talking about it, it was talking about us. It was talking about Israel. It was talking about those, you understand, particularly in Israel, who were in rulership and in power. And they were failing in their position.
The water.
I on the ball. And that's the exact verse that I'm going to use to show that the entire Old Testament is law. They want to think it's just the first 5 books. But Christ said, does not it say in your law? Why? Because anything that came out the mouth of the prophets is law. Any other questions?
Come on, sir. You just got one in the chat right now.
All right.
From Sister Raya. It says, this is not related to the topic, but I just wanted to know if it's stated in the Bible, how come France is always involved in all politic issues, like the biggest revolutions come from France?
I don't know if I would say that the biggest revolutions come from France, but France is an older European country. So as a result, it has relations with a lot of different nations. You know what I'm saying? That's why America is called the Little Horn, because it's a younger nation. France would be one of the older horns because it was one of the earlier established European countries. You know what I'm saying? You know, of course, after Italy and Rome and all that. But like when you look after the Byzantium, those brothers who left, they went and established these areas. The white man took them over, and these are just older countries. So France has been involved with all of those. You know what I'm saying? Different nations, just because of the time, point of reference, geographical location, and how old that nation is. All right.
Sir. You got 2 more if you want them, sir.
All right, come on with it. We still got like a few more minutes left.
Come on. The first one is, why Old Testament say that Christ is made up?
Okay, because I want to get into this in the future weeks. So definitely subscribe to the house. I'm gonna get into how the Jewish man stole our identity. And the people who are OT only, they are Jewish. They've learned, you understand, from the so-called white man. And just to give you a brief history, when there was a war going on between Byzantium, which was Christianity, and then the Islamic faction, in between the two was, you know what I'm saying, like the Caspian Sea, the Russian steppes of Georgia, Georgia. So what happened is there was a Khazarian steppe tribe there. And to stay neutral in the war, they said, okay, if we convert to Islam, then this nation will rule over us. If we convert to Christianity, then the Byzantium Empire will rule over us. Well, they said the New Testament comes before the Quran, and the Old Testament comes before the New. So we're only going to claim the Old Testament and say we're Jewish so we could stay neutral. So they didn't deny Christ because of scholarship. They denied Christ because of a political standpoint. And then over the years, that became dogma. And then that dogma was taught to those brothers. So they are reading the Bible through the eyes of the Edomites who stole our identity.
Con, sir. The last one is, how is Edom the so-called white man?
Okay, I don't know if I got time for all that. I'll try to fast forward straight to the point. All right. Let me see here. I'm gonna try to just give you the direct laser cut for it. All right. This chapter. Yep. Boom. All right. So this is 2nd Ezra chapter 6, and I'm going to start at verse 8. And he saith unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So what happened is that you have Ezra, right? And he's talking to an angel. He's getting all these visions. He's getting all these questions answered. And what he's shown is that there was going to be a nation, right? And this nation was going to be the sign that Israel was going to have their kingdom next. So it wasn't the Elamites, it wasn't the Ishmaelites, it wasn't the Hamites, but Esau would be the nation, the last kingdom in rulership before our kingdom comes. So I have to ask you then, who's ruling the world right now in these last days? Is our kingdom up next? Yes, I'm not going to say we got next because that's the WNBA, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we are the ones who's supposed to rule next under Christ. Our kingdom is coming. Why? Because Esau's in rulership right now. That is the so-called white man. All right. I think the sister raised her hand again. I'm going to take this last question because it's 9 p.m. And then after this, we'll wrap up.
I asked that question about Edom, but I'd like to know, because I heard you with a class when you were saying Magog and you was talking about Russia, and we know those people over there is white, and we know some of them look like Asian-like, some of them look like mulatto-like, and that's over in that area. So we know that they're white, but they're not Edom.
Okay. As far as it depends on who, you know what I'm saying? Like, could some of them be a remnant of us? Sure. And the original Gog and Magog were Japhites, were Japhetic. But the same way the so-called white man calls himself a Jew today is the same way he stole our land, is the same way he stole everyone's land. So they pushed the original Japhites out. Now, I'm not sure exactly because the vast majority of them are not mulattoes. Every Russian I have ever met is 100%, you understand, looks like they've been drinking blood for the last 6,000 years out of Russia.
Okay, because I was going to say, I know Albania and stuff, because when I was talking to somebody at work, he was like, "Oh, in my country they call me black." I'm like, "Black? You look like you white to me," but over here he's considered white. So I
Oh,
was like, "Is it a bloodline thing?"
okay.
And
Black was considered a class system. So
okay,
so you have some people who are called black because of class, and you have other people who are called black because of complexion. And usually they wouldn't just call them black, they would call them a Moor, they would call them swarthy, they would call them Negro, they would call them Niger. Black is kind of something that came last, and it depends, like I said. But when I get into actually who the so-called Jewish man is, I'll be able to bring some of that out to show that in that area under the Turks, because that's who the Albanians, the Lithuanians, the Romanians are. They're the broken up version of the original, not the original, but a version of the Turks who became the Ottoman Turks, who were white men who converted to Islam, who sacked Constantinople, and then they broke up into those different countries: Albania, Lithuania, any Ania over there. That's a large Muslim speaking population. So being black was also a class system. You know what I'm saying? A title. It wasn't only complexion.
okay. And another thing I was gonna say, because I know what you're talking about, because I'm in New York City as well too, so I see all these different people, and I talk to people, and I was gonna say also with Edom, I said I was wondering if they mixed somewhere and got white, because I was thinking about somebody I work with. She a twin, right? And her sister is dark and she high yellow and she got like red freckles and red hair. And then she had twins herself. She had boys. So one of them is dark and then one of them is high yellow. But he not white. He just light skin. Like, he high yellow light skin like the dude from Kid and Play.
Right, right.
Yeah, and the other one is he like dark, like, like maybe like Martin, you know, and just like her and her sister. But they was the same way, and she had the red hair, and her next son got the red hair, the twin. They're both twins. And then I started thinking, like, I know light skinned people with freckles and they got that red hair, So I said, did Esau mixed with somebody else and became like the so called white man?
No, he came out looking like that, and then his descendants looked like him, and the Lord created that nation. You know what I'm saying? Like just the fact that one twin came out dark, one twin came out light, kind of shows you that's and you can Google this right now. One twin coming out white, one twin coming out black, to show that's what had happened. But the difference is, the Lord ended the different nations right now. The last two nations on the earth to come out was Jacob and Esau, was Israel and Edom. You know what I'm saying? So the Lord created them through Esau. Esau came out red. Red meaning the same way you call somebody black, they're not really black, they're brown. Well,
Yeah.
red, you understand, the so-called white man is really red. He's different shades of red all the way down to like a light pink. You understand? When he's in the sun, he turns red. When he's mad, he turns red. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So Esau was the so-called white man. If you want,
That's why I said I'm confused, because I thought Adam was red too. Because
okay,
Adam doesn't have red.
no, that red, okay, it had these different things have context. Like, for example, ruddy doesn't only mean red. Ruddy also means like a pretty boy. Like when King David was called ruddy, it was because he didn't look like a killer. So
Nice looking.
you know what I'm saying? Like yeah, it was like Goliath was a 9-foot ugly ass Hamite with war scars, and you know what I'm saying? And he was offended. He's like, you sent this ruddy youth, you sent this pretty boy to come battle me? It would be like who do I see being called a pretty boy all throughout hip hop? What were you gonna say?
Little Bow Wow.
Okay, Little Bow Wow. I was gonna say one of the Chicago. I think Dirk. You know what I'm saying? Like, Dirk is a pretty boy. You know what I'm saying? Young cat, no facial hair. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't look like a killer. Neither did David. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, these cats probably got bodies on them all over Chicago. Same way David was killing bears and lions. You know what I'm saying? So he was a ruddy youth. So depending on the context, it's not only talking about complexion or hue. It's a title given on to somebody that they're trying to. It's like saying fair. You know, at one time, fair just meant beautiful. But because of white supremacy, fair ended up becoming somebody that's white and beautiful. So it's calling somebody fair.
Okay. Thank you.
I am the boy. All right, so we are over the time. Make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the house. This class is going on every Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. The link is in the top for our YouTube. And the Passover is April 15th in Cocoa Beach, Florida. More information is at isupk.com. You know what I'm saying? Come break some bread with us, all right? And with that, shalom.
Shalom, sir. Yahweh Shem Yahshua.
Yusha Brakta, Yahushua Maltan Bashem Yahusha.